There's a lot of terrorism are committed in the ozone layer, whereby actually the hemisphere has been affected by, of course, this kind of pollution, and the Africa world is being affected. The Green Revolution planned afresh ahead, and certainly a solution number last, let us castigate democracy. This debate of term limits and playing around all that, to me it is a trash. Let us go back to the basics and work everything for God and our country, Africa.
Come and see this place, how it is here at Fair Hotel, but also you also need to enjoy some of the services here. We are powered by Great Africa Radio in Imbarara, powered by Tropic FM in Mubende, powered by www.theinsider.ug, powered by www.cheapreports.com, those online and you're not able to make it here. We are dealing with terrorism. Tonight's topic is about global terrorism and the concept of terrorism. We've been joined by Professor Kajamako Karusoke. Kajamako Karusoke is a lecturer, a senior lecturer at National Leadership Institute in Chankwanzi, and he's also one of those was here Kadogo. I don't think he was. The struggle of 81 to 86, Professor Kajamako Karusoke was part of it. By then I think he was old enough, so he made his decision. But unfortunately, he went alongside with some Kadogos. Some of them will mention them here once they appear. Terrorism is commonly defined as violent acts or the threat of violent acts intended to create fear or terror, perpetrated for an economic, religious, political, or ideological goal. Professor Kajamako Karusoke on the floor.
Terrorism is considered as bad behavior between one man and another man, between one woman and another woman, or between one man and another woman. Can we define people? What are people? People is a social category composed of three components: man, male, woman, female, and child. You see, that is how we have to differentiate between education and training. Some of you have been to schools, or many of you here as you are seated, have been to schools. But many of you, or all of you as you are here, have been trained. And some of you are not educated. Education lies in purpose of training. Are you a doctor? Yes. You are an engineer? Yes. Trained. But what is the purpose of being an engineer? What is the purpose of being a doctor? What is being referred to as terrorism concerning Al-Qaeda? It is supposed to be a terrorist organization. Why? It is fighting for a territory in the Middle East not to be occupied by foreigners. Is it Al-Qaeda which is primarily fighting for the Middle East freedom? Or was the Middle East attacked first so that Al-Qaeda emerges? So when Al-Qaeda is fighting against another force, is Al-Qaeda primary or Al-Qaeda secondary of the primary force which caused Al-Qaeda? We fought against colonialism because we were colonized by the capitalist classes of Western Europe, the whole of Africa, Consider the Berlin Conference of 1884. We were colonized by Europeans who divided up our continent according to their economic interests. Why? Because they wanted what to gain from us. Land is fundamental, as a fundamental object of labor. And that's what Europeans wanted from us. Now, what is politics? Politics is an expression of concentrated economic intentions, emotions, and views between social interest groups or classes struggling for state power or for territories. That's politics. Obote said politics was a data game. Well, you might have seen that when classes or social interest groups were struggling, they were behaving in a data way to gain the power one from another for economic intentions. Seven said politics is scientific management of society. No. Seven should have said politics must be, not that it has been. Because politics arose under slave-owning society, and it was not a scientific management of society there, because of the nature of the economic system there, where masters would even, at a night like this, go for a drink at the cages of lions and put part of their manpower, like slaves, to be eaten up by lions, and they watch that with interest, and they take their wine, killing people who were slaves, and undermining their manpower in the economic base of the slavery-owned society of the Greeks and Romans. These are very stupid people in history, very hopeless, bastards of the worst type, in terms of how society should be arranged. You see? So politics should be scientific management of society, but nevertheless remains as concentrated economic emotions. There is not such a thing as politics without economic intentions. No way. That's why Besigye tells you, I wish I did not treat Museveni in the bush. He wishes him to die in arrears because he wants to become head of state for economic intentions against Museveni. Imperialism is an incorrect system, and its higher stage, colonialism, is an incorrect system. We were colonized, and we said no, colonialism. And our national liberation movement had two edges, was characteristic of two edges. One, to liberate us, the colonized, from being colonized. And two, to liberate the colonizers by showing them that it was wrong to colonize us. We liberated ourselves from colonialism, and we liberated them as they abandoned our territories to know that it was wrong to colonize us. So in terms of education and ethics, we are superior to all imperialist countries in the world, United States and European countries of the West, under the Organization of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. When we are talking about education, we should differentiate it between training. You can be trained, you are not educated. You are a quack, you are a charlatan, you are an exploiter of others. United States and Western Europe, as they can be seen through their military organization or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, are highly developed in science and technology above all of us in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and the Middle East, yes. When we consider education, the entire leadership of Western Europe and the United States is an inferior type of education, especially with particular reference to ethics. They are the worst educated people in ethics in the world. They exercise neocolonialism. They exercise imperialism. And you know, there's not such a thing to be talked about as how society can be organized in terms of economics, ethics, spiritual life, and the entire superstructure outside the nature of the economic system, which is at the base, which is at the base of society. When you talk about an economic system, you are talking about society, both in the economic arrangement, superstructure, including spiritual life, in the superstructure, which must guide the economic system. But where the economic system gave rise to spiritual life, where the economic system is horrible, you can't have correct spiritual life in society. Now, Republican Party, Democratic Party, are all parties of United States capitalist fundamentalism.
Professor, are you addressing global terrorism? That's where we are?
I'm coming, I'm giving you background. You are simply mentally staggering. Now, come to me now. Now, now that stage of capitalism in the United States has come up to imperialism. How? You know, take, for example, Iraq. There was a declaration by Bush, President of the United States, that there were weapons of mass destruction. They were not there. That was a lie by a crook, a hooligan, a scoundrel. Bush, your supporter, and you supporter that fellow. You are very clean mentally by doing that way, although you are very characteristic of ideological fields. Now, terrorism. The Americans now come to Israel, international trouble spots. 1020 BC, the Jews conquer it. 67 AD, the Romans conquer it. and 34, the Arabs conquer it. Now, 570, Muhammad is born. 634, yeah, 634, Muhammad conquer it. I mean, Arabs conquer it. Then 1291, Egypt conquers it. Then 1516, the Ottoman Turks conquer it. Then 1917, Britain conquers it. It has been changing hands from time to time. After the Second World War, when Hitler has killed 6 million Jews, Europeans decided to look for a state for Israel under the Jewish International Association, where such a state under the Jews would be known as Mandat Israel, the state of the Jews. Because Britain had more territories which were colonies, Britain agreed to offer one of the territories, one of its colonies to the Jews to become Mandat Israel. And it is then that Britain gave UGA-NDA. What's that? Yes, to become Mandat Israel in 1948. But fortunately for us, the Jews rejected it, saying, of all the British colonies, why don't we have Palestine, where Saul started Jewish conquests in Palestine. The Jews were allowed to start building from Mukono, Kigezi, and Karamoja. The Jews saved you by rejecting it. Because the whole of Uganda would be taken. They were not just going to stop at Mukono, among the Baganda, the Sinyoti and the Cebu, would be now the Hamas. And Karamoja, the Mujahideen, the Chiga, the father. You were just saved like that. Baganda will be Sinyoti and Hamas. Hopeless. And that's imperialism, you see. Because you can see that if Uganda would be offered as a Jewish state and they offered Palestine, the offering was very correct. They offered a territory which belonged to other people. The Jews had gone many years. They had no right to claim that territory. Just we in the north of Africa. The Kush would claim the whole of North Africa. You see, because the Berbers really are the owners of the territories of North Africa, what the Arabs refer to as Berberi. Berberi. You see, those are Kush who own that land. But the Arabs said, supposing now we told the Jews to get out and we take it, would that appear normal or first of all, it is very difficult and almost impossible to drive Arabs from the north now. What we need is to cooperate.
We are trying.
Huh?
We are trying.
To cooperate, yes. And even the Arabs know that they don't belong to those areas. Because they call if you reach the pyramids in Egypt, all those people in Nile Hilton, in Continental, all those hotels, the black people there whom you see looking like Somali are the ancient Egyptians, the Kush. Then they are connected with Luba and Luxor in Aswan. Then Northern Sudan, the Tuareg, and the rest are connected with the Northern Africa. And that's why they call Sudan, land of the black, because the people there are Kush and black. That's why the land is Sudan, land of the black. So you are either Asmar or Sud, and Abiyad is them. Aywa, and Abiyad an Arab, and Abiyad Arab. انت سود يعني أسمر كل يعني مش أبيض مش كذلك.
Professor, just sorry in a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt. Gentlemen and ladies, I've just got some good news. Next Friday we shall host the chairman or the proprietor of House of Dauda. You know Splash? You know Splash? Yes. Britannia Energy Industries, Uganda Limited. The proprietor is called Hasmukh Dauda.
Right now, the Jews have established 4,000 blocks in East Jerusalem. They are still in the West Bank. They are still in Gaza. And Israel should be understood as the United States province in the Middle East with Netanyahu as the governor, United States governor in Jerusalem. That's all. That's an extended territory of United States, a springboard of United States, an appendage of United States, and a satellite state of United States. That's what Israel is against Arabs. The Arabs, therefore, have to rise against United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization of Western Europe. So it is not Al-Qaeda, which is terrorist primarily. It is United States imperialism with West European imperialism under the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is terrorist. Al-Qaeda is on defense, Al-Shabaab are on defense, United States are on the offensive. Terrorism should be understood as United States axis of evil. They are the terrorists. Now, you should avoid this word even. Some people, some leaders are using the word even. Even in the United States, this is being done. But those people are not educated. You should never make them as an example of what they are doing. 95% of United States police is made up of whites. Only 5% is of black people there, and they are shooting blacks in the United States.
When Professor said that 70% of United States police are...
95%.
Sorry?
95%.
95% of the police of the United States are white and 5% are black. He means to say you can't compare United States with Uganda. Ugandan people here are the indigenous people. The white people in America, they are not the indigenous. If you want to compare them, if he said that the indigenous Americans, or what they call them, the red Indians, are 95%, then it can be comparable with Uganda. Thank you.
I'm trying to compare racial relations in the United States based on the economic system, where there is racialism, and the racialism is economic, depending on groups of people struggling for state power, expressing economic intentions. The United States is made up of many races. Even the whites in the United States are not indigenous. The blacks and whites are not indigenous. But some ignorant people don't know that. You see, you should not talk about American Africans or African Americans without even talking about European Americans, where the natives are red Indians. You see? And they've even put a Jalu, who is not a descendant of the black Americans, as a cover, as a racial cover, to try and appease blacks who are descendants of slaves, that a black man can be a president, when Obama is just a color cover to appease blacks. Because he's a Jaluo from Kenya, not a descendant of American blacks. Some people don't understand that, you see.
Professor, you have 3 minutes now.
I don't care, because I know what you are anyway. Bashir, if Bashir is turning into an agent of imperialism, no wonder, because imperialism has no permanent friend, it has a permanent interest. You find even Machar and Bakir are fighting for oil under the instigation of United States, as to whom would serve United States better in Southern Sudan than another. I know that. You see, that's why Machar is allied to Bashir. You see, and United States is interested in Machar. And Machar is against Uganda because Uganda was better in Somalia against United States. And Uganda is better in Southern Sudan against United States. Uganda has done far better in this region. And United States is unhappy about it. Uganda said, no man should marry man, no woman should marry woman. United States is angry about that. You see, United States is made up of leaders who are qualified, irreversible hooligans. Obama is a hooligan, but some people respect such a man like Obama because they are mentally stunted and full of fumes in the brain. You see what it is?
Can I inform you, Professor Kajabago, that Uganda is fighting a proxy war of America in Somalia, and it is clear in the news on BBC. Uganda is in Somalia on behalf of USA?
Is Uganda in Somalia on behalf of USA?
And is actually being paid money and has been replaced with even helicopters? It is very clear.
Now, if that is the case, they are lending us money, but we are not under their instructions because we're a sovereign state. If they lend us that money to do that work, then they are raising their level of moral standards nearer to us as we remain superior to them because they went there and failed because their going there was aimed at American imperialism, whereas our going there is aimed at African brotherhood under Pan-Africanism. Americans are not Pan-Africanists. They are imperialists in the United States, and they can't be Pan-Africanists, and they can't serve the interests of Pan-Africanism. Otherwise, when they are here, they are undermining the interests of Pan-Africanism. That's all. Those are capitalist vampires, hyenas, jackals. That's what it is. They have a permanent interest. They do not have a permanent friend. And our interests in Somalia are different from theirs. We are there for brotherhood. They are there for imperialist purposes.
I'm Chisache Mukalege, and I'm from Go Green Limited. Now, I would like to inform a professor that Uganda being in Somalia is actually influenced by the US. It's cheaper for the US to get Ugandan soldiers into Somalia than using the American soldiers. For them, it's cheaper. That is one. Two, the other thing, I think it's when you look at this whole thing of Somalia and Uganda, I still think, just like he's saying, it's the US is just playing games. It's putting on a mask. But the whole thing, it's not about Uganda trying to help their brothers or something. It's more of an economic issue. As we are trying to help the Somalis, trying to fight insurgencies here, these guys are on the shores of Somalia. Mogadishu wasn't. They're drilling oil.
Yeah, United States is not above us. They can lend us money and stop this stupid economic idea that they give us aid. They do not give us aid. We are trade partners, and we pay loans back to them with interest. It is because of your inherited colonial mentality that you think whoever is richer than you is your master, and whoever is militarily stronger than you is your master. No way. Where do you come from, by the way?
That doesn't matter.
It matters because you are a political circus, and fantastic. You are characteristic of political fantasy, and you are a circus. You are a political circus. Yeah.
I think if someone does not understand the point of white supremacy, if someone does, at this point, if someone has not gotten this information that whites are trying to do away with the black population because, just like he said, because they are scared, a black and a black can produce a white person. But a white and a white cannot produce a black person. That alone, if someone does not understand that, just that point, then they cannot get the point that these whites are trying to deal away with black people in form of very many forms of terrorism.
Racial is economic. Race is economic. Racialism is economic. One race against another are economic struggles. And those people are not race-wise superior to us. None of us would like to be white, except you who wants to be white, like you are the mother of Obama. You can go there if you want. Now, we should also organize the continent horizontally. How? All trade unions of Africa should meet in Addis Ababa. All women's organizations in Africa should meet in Addis Ababa. All the youth of Africa should meet in Addis Ababa. All military officers. It should be mass organization in link with vertical organization. Trade unions, women's organizations, the youth, the disabled. We should organize the mass. Otherwise, we should have these leaders only uniting within themselves for financial gains from our territories.
But for me, what I see, people are just giving us problems. I don't see any solution from us. White supremacy is white supremacy. Every day and every day is the same issue. I think we need the debate to be more comprehensive.
A lot has been said about terrorism. And to me, my understanding of this concept is that it's a fundamental tool of control and operations in an elusive thing called globalization reduced to the village level. So there's nothing so big that we can talk about terrorism if we do not know the real forces behind terrorism. It is, whatever is happening in here is what they want to happen. Let us get confused with the concept of terrorism, blame each other. But you should have to know that the Africans are being used in this confusion of terrorism. And we are the same means and victims at the same time of this whole thing of terrorism. They came up with something called ritualization, I think. That's the term they're using now. Trying to justify the causes to why young Africans are increasingly joining the so-called terrorism groups of late. Recently, some Kenyan girls joined the ISL, and a few, they're joining these groups. And they're saying, because our governments are not giving the young people the opportunity to feel like their views are also taken into the building of our nations. So the young people wanting to be recognized as members of the society are joining these groups. That is a lie. It is a lie. Just know it's the next strategy that these people are using to pull the young Africans, to let them join these so-called terrorist groups. There's a lot. They talked about the attacks and all that. But as all I've said, it's all an economic thing at the end of it. Because if you look at the first time terrorism came out, boom, like an explosion to the entire world, when the Twin Towers were bombed, it was mainly economical. If you all know that Afghanistan is the biggest coke producer in the world, and the US under the CIA is the biggest seller, can I say, marketer of cocaine, the final product of coke. So with the confusion there, they had to get an excuse to attack these Arab states that were trying to stop the supply of coke as a raw material to cocaine, which is the biggest mineral the United States has from the dollar as their source of income. So terrorism is totally a controversial issue. All you have to know is that you are endangered right now, and you are victims, and you are the main target. The next strategy is recruiting young Africans into these groups. So please, I call upon you as I stand here, that should not be lured into these organizations, no matter what. Stand your ground and try to find better ways of making your life better. Thank you very much.
Actually, I'll just be straight to the point about global terrorism. And my own concern is to enlighten you more about how terrorism is existing and how terrorism has been a strategy from various states. We have observed terrorism is just a strategy made by the Americans to get their political affairs getting through. As you know from definition that terrorism is all about violent acts for attempt to create fear. And you know, when you create fear, it's the only way you can rule all your subjects. And so we have to see terrorism as a strategy for somebody to achieve his own interests.
Global terrorism, it is a tool used by the white supremacists to to get to accept or to accomplish their economic needs. For example, when you look at the Al Qaeda and what they did in the 9/11 attack in America, they wanted to accomplish or to gain access to the cocoa mines in that country. So I think we need to be kind of practical, not theoretical as Pan-Africanists. I think we need to be extremists in that case.
Point of information, we should not allow accusing races, because Obama is a terrorist of the United States and is a Jalewo.
Yes, I call upon Pan-Africanists. Let's be serious, let's be practical in whatever we do. Thank you.
And the terrorism is politically loaded and emotionally charged. And what I have to say about terrorism in Africa, let's not blame the West, because as we Africans are using terrorism to our advantage. And this is a win-win situation for the whites and the Africans. So Museveni, the terrorism works for the whites and also works for the blacks. Museveni is using this part to terrorism to keep himself in power by, if he sends troops to Somalia, he's avoiding internal threats by the whites. So
one, I want to make some comments. It will be brief. Maybe they may be disconnected, but I want to talk about them. My brother from Southern Sudan, I failed to get his name properly. He talked about migration. This migration is a tactic of imperialism, having squeezed the money out of the population. Now, people are running for survival, and they go to the USA, rather to Europe, and now they say, they want people to leave the land, and they say the whites are good people, they are welcoming people who are running away from mismanagement of their country. When in actual fact, they are the ones who have deliberately created a situation and barrier so that they move away and they come and grab the land. I want to inform you the phase of grabbing the land started in 2008. It is continuing now, it is reaching the apex. And it is brought about by economic policies engineered by the World Bank, which World Bank is simply an arm of USA. I have read the report, the Ngoni report. They want to reduce the world population by half. And because of that, one of the strategies is to create diseases, create food which is poisoned like GMOs, and most importantly and most effective, that is creating wars. And this example which you can see, they call it the Islamic State. Islamic State is composed of some Muslims who are opposed to Iran. And America has been against Iran. But now they have struck a deal for the Iran-supported Muslims to fight against the ICL. You can see it is a game of trying to make people clear each other so that they can, I told you the other time, they are no longer interested in people, they are interested in resources. They want us to kill each other. They come and take away the resources. My friends, especially from the NRM, I'm disappointed with them. It seems they have got the eyes, but they don't see. They have got the ears, but they don't hear. They are usually, so even to me, the other day they were telling us the liberation form, that the people who liberated us from war. I think Uganda is now more of a puppet of imperialism than any other time. If there is any government that has been willing, to serve American interest, is NRM under President Museveni. That's why we are suffering under this place they call GMOs. Because our leader, I'm sorry, my former icon, likes power so much. And because of power, you can allow people to be killed even through GMOs so long as it remains power. But my question is, if the people are killed, what are these people, even including them, who are they going to lose? So when Professor Kajabago says, you see, America cannot be superior than us, I think he's a very naive professor.
Join the Pan-African debate on Facebook. Follow the debate on www.theinsider.ug. You can join the debate on www.cheaprepost.ug. .com. And we shall next Friday read some of your comments throughout the week. Gentlemen and ladies, please I ask you to invite many of your friends that you can do reach. Next Friday we shall have a very distinguished guest from Nairobi, Kenya.